What if the news you thought was life-changing turns out to be a lie? Imagine celebrating your sister's pregnancy, only to find out months later that the truth isn't what you thought. A DNA test that shatters everything, revealing secrets you never saw coming. How far can trust really stretch when the people you love keep hiding the truth from you? What would you do if you found out your sister's pregnancy had ties to your own boyfriend, and it wasn't even clear who the father was? What do you do when the people you trust most betray you in ways you can't even fathom? The truth comes out in the most unexpected way, and it will change everything. Imagine your sister telling you she's pregnant, the joy, the excitement, the shared dreams of what's to come. You celebrate with her, believing this is one of the happiest moments of her life. But what if months later, a DNA test revealed a truth that shattered everything? What if the story she told you wasn't the whole story? Where are you watching from today? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a story that challenges what you think you know. It was a quiet autumn afternoon when Lily dropped the news. We were sitting in my living room, a half-empty cup of coffee in her hands, fingers nervously tapping against the ceramic. I remember the way she hesitated before speaking, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have something to tell you." I looked up from my phone, sensing the weight in her tone. "Okay, what's up?" She took a deep breath, as if steadying herself. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air for a moment, settling between us like a sudden shift in the atmosphere. My eyes widened, and for a split second, I wasn't sure how to react. "Wait, what? You're serious?" I asked, my voice caught between shock and excitement. She nodded, a small, nervous smile on her lips. "Yeah, I just found out a few weeks ago." A flood of emotions rushed through me: surprise, happiness, curiosity. My little sister, pregnant. It felt surreal. I leaned forward, reaching for her hand. "Lily, that's amazing. Oh my God, you're gonna be a mom." She laughed, but it felt thin, almost forced. I should have noticed it then. The way her fingers clenched slightly around the coffee cup, the way she avoided my eyes for just a second too long. But I didn't. I was too caught up in the moment, in the idea of her stepping into this new phase of her life. "So, who's the father?" I asked, my curiosity finally breaking through. That's when something shifted. The warmth in her face dimmed, replaced by something else. Uncertainty. Fear. She looked down at the coffee in her hands, stirring it absent-mindedly with her spoon. "It's complicated," she said finally. I frowned. "Complicated how?" She hesitated. "It was kind of a short thing. We weren't serious. He doesn't need to be involved." That answer didn't sit right with me. Lily wasn't the type to have short things. She was careful, thoughtful, the kind of person who thought 10 steps ahead before making a move. But I didn't push her. "Are you sure?" I asked gently. "I mean, if you need support, if you need help, No." She cut me off quickly, forcing another smile. "It's fine. I've got it under control." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to take her words at face value and trust that she had everything figured out. But something inside me hesitated, a tiny voice whispering that there was more to this story. I ignored it. Instead, I hugged her. Instead, I told her I was happy for her. Instead, I convinced myself that this was just nerves, that first-time moms probably felt this way all the time. What I didn't know was that this was the beginning of something far bigger than I could have imagined. What I didn't know was that in just a few months, the truth would unravel, and I would question everything I thought I knew about my sister. And what I didn't know, what I never could have expected, was that the DNA test would change everything. The weeks that followed Lily's announcement were filled with excitement. Baby name ideas, nursery plans, late-night conversations about cravings and morning sickness. I wanted to be the supportive sister, the one she could count on. But something felt off. At first, it was little things. The way she changed the subject whenever anyone asked about the father, the way she avoided certain family gatherings, especially when relatives pressed for details. The way her phone always seemed to be buzzing with messages she'd quickly swipe away. I told myself it was normal. Some women went through pregnancy alone. Maybe she was just overwhelmed. Then came the baby shower. Our mother insisted on throwing one, even though Lily protested at first. It was a small gathering, just close friends and family in our parents' backyard, balloons tied to the fence, a table stacked with gifts. Lily sat in the center, smiling, laughing, unwrapping baby clothes and blankets. But there was a moment, a brief, flickering moment, when I saw something in her eyes. It happened when one of our cousins, a little too nosy for her own good, leaned in with a teasing smile. "Come on, Lily. You've got to tell us who the dad is. You can't keep us all guessing forever." Lily froze. For a fraction of a second, her entire body stiffened, fingers tightening around the gift bag in her lap. She forced out a laugh, too quick, too rehearsed. "It's not important," she said lightly, waving her hand. "I told you it was just a short thing. He's not involved." Our cousin wouldn't let it go. "Well, at least tell us if we know him. I mean, is he someone from town?" Lily's eyes darted to me, just for a second, and in that second, I knew she was hiding something. "It doesn't matter," she said quickly. The conversation moved on, the laughter returned, but my mind stayed locked on that glance. Why look at me? What did I have to do with this? That night, as we packed up leftover food and folded chairs, I decided to ask. "Lily, can I ask you something?" She sighed, rubbing her belly absent-mindedly. "If this is about the baby's father, I really don't want to talk about it." "That's the thing," I said carefully. "You don't want to talk about it, but you keep looking like you have something to say. And I feel like I should know. I'm your sister." She hesitated. I could see her debating something, trying to decide how much to tell me. Then she forced a smile, reaching for my hand. "Emma, I love you, and I promise this is just how I want it. Please trust me." I wanted to. I really did. But that look at the baby shower stuck with me, and for the first time I wondered if I was being lied to. I tried to let it go. I really did. But something about Lily's reaction at the baby shower gnawed at me. It wasn't just secrecy, it was fear. Like she was afraid of what would happen if the truth got out. Over the next few weeks, I watched her closely. She was distant, more than usual. She didn't answer calls right away, didn't text as often. When I asked how she was feeling, she kept it vague. Tired, pregnancy stuff. Then one evening, I stopped by her apartment unannounced. Her car was parked outside, lights on. She was home. I knocked on the door, expecting her to answer right away, but instead, I heard muffled voices inside. A man's voice. I froze. I had never heard Lily mention anyone coming over. Was this the baby's father? Someone else? I knocked again, louder this time. The voices stopped. A few seconds passed before the door finally opened, and there she was, hair messy, face flushed, eyes darting nervously behind her. "Emma, hey, what are you doing here?" I glanced past her into the apartment, but whoever she had been talking to was gone. The place looked off. A chair slightly pulled out, a half-empty glass of water on the counter. Someone had been there. "I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd check in," I said, stepping inside before she could stop me. She shut the door quickly. "You should have called first." "Did I interrupt something?" I asked, eyeing the glass on the counter. She exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples. "No, I was just talking to someone about baby stuff." "Who?" Her jaw tightened. It doesn't matter, Emma. Lily, why are you acting so weird about this? If there's nothing to hide, just tell me the truth. Was that the father? She didn't answer, just turned away, running a hand over her belly. Lily. I said softer this time. Please, what's going on? For a moment, she looked like she might actually tell me. Her lips parted, her shoulders slumped. But then, just as quickly, she shook her head and forced a small laugh. You're being dramatic. There's nothing going on. I stared at her, trying to make sense of the shift in her expression. She was shutting down, putting a wall up. I didn't press. But as I left her apartment that night, I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. Something was wrong, and I wasn't imagining it. I tried to ignore the feeling in my gut, but it was impossible. Lily was hiding something, and I wasn't the only one who noticed. Our mom called me one afternoon, her voice hesitant. Have you spoken to your sister lately? Yeah, why? I don't know. She just seems off, distant. And when I asked about the baby's father again, she got really defensive, almost angry. I sighed, rubbing my temple. Yeah, she won't talk to me about it either. That's not normal for Lily. Mom was right. Lily had never been like this before. She was the type of person who needed to talk things through, who overanalyzed every detail. This sudden secrecy? It wasn't like her. And then, a week later, things got even stranger. I was at the grocery store picking up a few things when I spotted Lily in the next aisle. She hadn't seen me yet. She was standing by the pharmacy section, talking to someone, a man. I couldn't see his face clearly, but something about the way they were standing caught my attention. It wasn't casual. Lily's arms were crossed, her body slightly turned away like she was uncomfortable. The man was speaking low, too low for me to hear. Then, suddenly, she shook her head. Number I told you, it's too late. I froze. The man ran a hand over his face, frustrated. He said something else, leaning in slightly. Lily glanced around nervously. Her eyes flickered toward my direction for half a second. Then she saw me. Her entire body stiffened. I took a step forward, but before I could say anything, she grabbed the man's arm and pulled him toward the exit. I stood there, heart pounding, watching them disappear into the parking lot. What the hell was that? I left my cart behind and rushed outside, but by the time I got there, they were already gone. Lily's car was pulling out of the lot, the man in the passenger seat. I stood there in the cold air, staring as the car disappeared down the street. I didn't recognize him, but I had no doubt in my mind. That was the baby's father, and Lily did not want me to know who he was. I didn't call Lily right away. I needed time to process what I had just seen. Who was that man? Why did she look so uncomfortable? And why was she so desperate to keep him a secret? The questions swirled in my head for days. Then, a week later, I got my answer, just not in the way I expected. I was at my parents' house when my mom casually mentioned that Lily had gone for a checkup earlier that morning. She asked me to come with her, Mom said, shaking her head, but she changed her mind last minute, said she was fine going alone. Something about that didn't sit right with me. Lily was 7 months pregnant. She hated going to doctor's appointments alone. Why would she suddenly not want Mom there? So I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I drove to the clinic myself. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even know what I was looking for. But when I got there, I spotted Lily's car parked outside. And then, just as I was about to leave, the door to the clinic opened. Lily stepped out, and she wasn't alone. The same man from the grocery store was walking beside her. I ducked back behind a parked car, heart pounding. They were talking, but their body language told me everything I needed to know. Lily looked stressed, her arms wrapped protectively around her belly. The man looked tense, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. Then I heard it. His voice, clear in the crisp autumn air. We need to do the test, Lily. I felt my stomach drop. A test? What kind of test? Lily shook her head. Number I told you. It doesn't matter. It does matter. The man's voice was sharper now, frustration laced in every word. You can't just pretend this isn't happening. Lily exhaled shakily, her back turned to me now. I don't want to talk about this here. The man ran a hand through his hair, then sighed. Fine. But we are talking about it. Soon. Then they both got into their cars and drove away. I stood there in the parking lot, completely frozen. There was only one test that could cause that kind of tension between two people. A paternity test. The word paternity echoed in my mind long after Lily and the man had driven away. I went home that night, replaying the conversation in my head. Why would Lily refuse a paternity test? What was she so afraid of? There was only one way to find out. I called her. She didn't pick up. I called again, straight to voicemail. By the third call, I knew she was avoiding me, so I did the only thing left. I drove to her apartment. It took her a long time to answer the door. When she did, her face was tired, her hair pulled into a messy bun. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Emma, she sighed, already exasperated. What do you want? I stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. I saw you today. Lily froze. I didn't give her time to respond. At the clinic, I said. With that guy, the one from the grocery store. She shut the door and leaned against it, rubbing her face. Jesus, Emma? Who is he, Lily? My voice was steady, but inside, my heart was racing. And why is he asking for a paternity test? Her body tensed. For a long time, she didn't say anything. Just stared at the floor, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Then, finally, she spoke. Because he thinks the baby isn't his. I blinked. What? Lily swallowed hard. He thinks... There's another possibility. The air in the room shifted. Lily? Is he right? Her silence was deafening. I took a step closer, my voice barely above a whisper. Who else could be the father? Lily shook her head, her eyes glistening. I don't want to talk about this, Emma. Too bad, I snapped, because I am talking about it. You've been lying to me for months, and I want to know why. She let out a shaky breath, gripping the counter for support. I don't know, she finally admitted. I don't know who the father is. The words hit me like a slap. You... what? It was 2 people, around the same time. I felt my stomach twist. Who? She hesitated, then looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. You don't want to know. But she was wrong. I needed to know. Because in that moment I realized something. The way she had looked at me at the baby shower. The way she had been avoiding certain people. The way she flinched when I pressed too hard. A horrible, sinking feeling crept over me. And when I asked the question, my voice barely sounded like my own. Lily, is there a chance my boyfriend is the father? Her silence told me everything. The room felt like it had shrunk, the walls pressing in on me. My own heartbeat pounded in my ears as I stared at Lily, waiting, begging for her to say something, anything. But she didn't. She just stood there, eyes red, lips slightly parted like she was frozen in place. Lily, I whispered, my voice barely holding together. Tell me I'm wrong. She inhaled shakily. Emma, tell me I'm wrong. A tear slipped down her cheek, and that was it. That was my answer. I stumbled back, gripping the edge of the counter like I might collapse. My chest felt tight, my stomach twisted into knots. How? How the hell did this happen? She wiped at her face. I didn't mean for it to. Didn't mean for it to? I repeated, my voice shaking. You slept with my boyfriend, Lily? While you were sleeping with someone else too? And now you're pregnant and don't even know who the father is? She flinched at my words, but I didn't care. She deserved to feel every bit of this. Emma, No. I cut her off, stepping away from her like she was something toxic. I don't want to hear your excuses. I want the truth. Tell me when this happened. Lily bit her lip, looking anywhere but at me. Around 4 months ago, she admitted. 4 months. I did the math in my head. That was when I had gone on a weekend trip for work. The same weekend my boyfriend had told me he was feeling sick and couldn't come along. A sharp laugh escaped me. It was ugly, bitter. Oh my God. Emma, I was drunk. Shut up, I snapped. Just shut up. Everything was spinning. I felt like I might throw up. Did he know? I asked, my voice raw. Did he know you might be pregnant with his kid? Lily hesitated just long enough for me to know the answer before she even said it. Yes. A cold, hollow emptiness filled my chest. And neither of you thought to tell me? I wanted to, but what, Lily? But you didn't? Because you were scared? Because you didn't want to ruin your little secret? I ran my hands through my hair, pacing the room. Jesus Christ, I stood by you. I defended you when people asked why you were being so secretive. I told everyone you deserved privacy. And all this time you were carrying this? She was crying now, shoulders shaking. I didn't want to lose you, Emma. Well, congratulations, I said coldly. Because you just did. I turned on my heel and stormed out. She called after me, but I didn't stop. I got in my car and drove, but I had no idea where I was going. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. My mind was racing. How long had he known? How long had he lied to me? I pulled over, my hands shaking too much to drive. And then, without thinking, I grabbed my phone and dialed his number. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, babe, he said casually, like nothing was wrong. I felt a white-hot rage bubble up inside me. How long were you going to lie to me? I said, my voice ice cold. A pause. A long, guilty pause. Emma, don't you dare, I snapped. Don't you dare act like you don't know what this is about. He sighed heavily. Did Lily tell you? Oh, so you knew she was going to tell me at some point? That's nice. Maybe you should have done it yourself. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, I shouted. You slept with my sister, and now she's pregnant and doesn't even know if it's yours. He didn't deny it. That was the worst part. Emma, please, can we talk about this, face to face? Go to hell, I said, and hung up. Then I sat there in the car, staring at the screen, trying to process the fact that the two people I had loved and trusted most had shattered everything. And the worst part? The paternity test hadn't even come back yet. This nightmare wasn't over, not even close. The days that followed were a blur. I didn't speak to Lily. I didn't speak to him. I couldn't. Instead, I spent hours replaying everything in my head. Every moment, every lie, every red flag I had ignored. My mind kept circling back to one question. Who was the father? I should have hated her. I should have hated him. But the truth was, I just felt numb. Then, a week later, I got a text from Lily. Lily, the results are in. I stared at my phone for a long time, my fingers hovering over the screen. I wasn't sure I wanted to know, but I had come this far. I couldn't walk away without knowing the truth. So I texted her back. Me. And? A few minutes passed before she replied. Lily, it's not him. I exhaled, my whole body sagging like I had been holding my breath for days. It wasn't my boyfriend's baby. I should have felt relief. I should have felt something close to victory, like I had dodged the worst possible outcome. But instead, all I felt was emptiness. The betrayal was still there. The damage was done. Later that evening, Lily called me. I let it ring twice before picking up. Emma, she started. Please don't shut me out. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tightly. You didn't just mess up, Lily. You broke something, and I don't know if it can be fixed. Silence. I miss you, she whispered. I miss my sister. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. I miss her too, but I don't know if I can forgive you. Not yet. Will you ever? I didn't have an answer, so I told her the only truth I knew. I don't know. I hung up before she could say anything else. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the wall. Everything in my life had changed in the span of a few weeks. My relationship was over. My sister, someone I had loved and trusted, was now a stranger to me. But maybe in some twisted way, this was a new beginning. I didn't have to carry their mistakes. I didn't have to live in the shadow of their betrayal. I had lost two people I loved, but maybe, just maybe, I had finally found myself. Trust is fragile. It takes years to build, seconds to break, and sometimes, forever to repair. Lily's baby would grow up never knowing the storm that surrounded their existence, and maybe that was for the best. As for me, I learned something important. Betrayal doesn't define you. What you do after it does. And for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Move forward, without them.